Are there chips over cookies in the basket?
No.
Go Blazers!
Which?
And go Buffaloes!
Hi everyone, welcome to our Through Her Eyes podcast. I'm Malia. And today we are talking about one of our topics in our book, which is education. Yay! Let's jump right into all things learning and knowledge.
All things education. So we'll talk about how did you choose the college that you are attending?
Go Blazers.
Go Blazers!
Which?
And go Buffaloes!
Go Buffs.
Go
I'm
Buffs.
a Buff. I'm a Blazer. Don't come at me, but I'm also a Buff. So how I chose Belhaven?
Yeah.
Okay, so I applied to a ton of different schools going into senior year of high school, and my main goal was creative writing. That's what I decided my major was going to be. And so I started picking colleges to sign up for, and all of the colleges in Colorado, while I do love them, none of them had creative writing as a major. Some had a creative writing concentration. Some of them just had English. And I was just like, I could settle, but I also really want to study creative writing. I wanted to study the art of writing creatively and sharing that story with other people. So I applied for some schools in Colorado, got into some, got into others, and then I just wasn't satisfied. It soon became a thing of my only options were Colorado, and my only option was English. And I was like, that's scary. I applied to a school in New York that was my dream college at the time. It was Hamilton College, creative writing major. It looked so cool. And mind you, y'all, I hate the cold. I don't even, because everyone at school is like, you're from Colorado. I hate the cold.
It's different. So Hamilton is just outside of Buffalo, New York. And if y'all are familiar with Buffalo, I'm from Rochester. It is not Colorado cold.
It's a whole different type of cold, and I explain to people, I'm like, I was raised in Colorado so I can deal with the cold. That doesn't mean I enjoy it. I actually hate every minute of it.
God knew.
God so knew, because I applied to this school. It was not a high acceptance rate, and I was so excited. January, I think it was like right after my birthday, I was supposed to get the email that I got in, and I didn't get in, and I was so sad. And my mom, my awesome mom over here, being who she is, she was like, get up the next morning. We went and picked my dorm theme aesthetic and went shopping. You're like, we're going to find more colleges.
Pick yourself up.
Get your crap together, because we're going to apply to more schools. We're going to find more schools. It's going to be great. So I ended up applying to 14 schools around the country that all had creative writing majors. And I got into nearly all of them. And so for a little bit, University of Iowa was going to be my school that I was going to. Got a really cool acceptance video. Don't know if a lot of people, you would only know if you applied to University of Iowa, but the acceptance speech or acceptance into the college was super cool. And
you're like, I'm going there.
No, literally. But the major was really cool, and it was also hard because this was during COVID, so I didn't get to visit any of the schools. There was no tours other than some Colorado ones that we just went to just see. That there was no tour that was made. No one was doing tours. I did one tour in Michigan, where they flew me out to go see a college. And then, super last minute in March, we found Belhaven University. We were
a Google search.
We were doing a Google search for not creative writing major, because I had found several schools already that accepted me. We were looking for.
We were done with schools.
We were done. I was done applying, and Iowa was what I was getting my heart set for. But we were looking for writing scholarships that I can do a writing piece and get money for college, because college is expensive, y'all. So we would do this Google search. You do this Google search, and we find the Angie Thomas Scholarship through Belhaven University, where, if you guys don't know, Angie Thomas wrote The Hate U Give, which was such an amazing book, such an amazing story, became a movie, just amazing. And she went to Belhaven University for their creative writing program. And so they made a scholarship through her of giving students scholarships based on their portfolios to come be at Belhaven under Angie Thomas Scholarship. So we find the scholarship, and it was
we were like, what's Belhaven?
No, literally.
What's a Belhaven?
What's a Belhaven? And we looked at where it was, and we were like,
Jackson.
Mississippi. We were very skeptical. But this was more, God hadn't reached my heart yet, but I feel like God reached yours of Malia. We are going to apply, but then we're going to fly out there. We're going to go visit. We're going to go meet the professors. We're going to put 10 toes as a current trend on this school after we'd already applied.
Because we have our thoughts, and even her dad and I talked about Jackson, Mississippi, and then all of these old 90s movies about racism and lynchings came into our head, and so we didn't want to send her there blindly, but we also knew that God had been working some things out. And luckily, the university itself had a specific day.
Yeah, it's called Arts Discover Day, where specifically students come to the school. And Belhaven has so many different majors and so many different departments, but Arts Discover Day is so that students can come and learn and meet people from the creative writing, from the dancing, from the film, from the theater, specifically the art majors and departments at Belhaven. So we flew out for that weekend.
Yeah, well, we had to wait. We waited until she got accepted because I didn't want to like.
We were waiting and we were calling our personal person in administration that was working with us. Oh, Judith. I still see her on campus. I'm like, do you remember me? But we were calling, like, did I get in? Did I get in? Not even the portfolio. Yeah. We hadn't learned about the scholarship and whether I got the scholarship. We knew we got in. We flew out. We realized that we forgot one of my books when we got there, which we didn't even think about, like bringing my book to.
Bring her book.
We just were like not using our brain cells.
But we brought like this whole beautiful leather portfolio and we made this whole thing. And so we were like prepared but not prepared.
And we like express shipped the book to the hotel we were staying at
to like overnight. I think we spent like $60
something ridiculous
to overnight it. And we were literally about to leave the hotel because we had to get to
the scheduled day at a certain time.
And the book came minutes before we left. It was definitely a God thing. Which book was it?
It was the Thick Camp Signal. It's my second book, the one that is thick as heck.
And y'all know, like, God is just so good. But we show up to this campus, which was an amazing experience.
It's really pretty.
Beautiful.
It's really pretty
Such
campus.
a great neighborhood. Like, obviously, we felt super comfortable.
We were like, oh my gosh.
Letting her to go to that school. But walking into the creative writing professor's office with a thick book. He's like, you wrote this?
I was like, yeah. And then, oh my gosh, Dr. Smith, we love you. But we had a conversation with the professor, the head of the department, and he was just like, please come here
because he reviewed her portfolio.
Yeah, it was being under review while we went to Discovery, so there wasn't a final decision, but he had my portfolio already, and I brought it. It was really cool. There was like a class that we sat in a colloquy.
Soliloquy?
Colloquy.
Soliloquy
is theater, I think.
You're right.
I don't know. It's not my department. Colloquy is where writers just bring in the work, and it's not necessarily grade. There's no test. There's no final. You just bring in work once a week, and then you get feedback from your peers and from your professors, which has been monumental for me. But I got to sit in with that with the other person that was on tour with us that day, and I got my work read by people other than my family and friends from the first time that day. College students who were studying it, but again, I think I said this in, I forget which podcast it was in, but from people who knew what they were doing. As much as people loved my work, it had only been by middle schoolers, while I was a middle schooler, who like, it's a great read, and oh my gosh, and family who obviously supported me and loved me, but never from someone who literally has a degree in creative writing, has been studying this for years. So it was terrifying, and I did get some hard hits. Dr. Gwynn is what I call mean cop at our school. We have two professors, and he's the mean cop, but he gives such good advice. He gave me some hard hits, which was very humbling that day and needed. But it was generally really good feedback on the piece that I had written and presented to this class, which was such a cool moment to not only apply to a school and, there's a scholarship, but to physically go see the campus, meet the professors who would be nurturing me for the next 4 years, but also get a sense of what that class atmosphere will look like and what being graded and having my writing under a microscope. So we finished that whole day. We get to view the amazing bookstore that is Lemuria, which is so cool.
Which is where we're having our book signing.
Yes, our launch day book signing. And so that day was later in March. It was literally March. It was March 26th. It was the very end of the month, where usually you make your decision day like May 1st. All the other schools were waiting for my response. We go visit the school, and there was so much fear because then we went back home, and I was sat with Iowa and I was sat with Belhaven. And in my head, Iowa was the safer choice. Iowa was a little bit closer to Belhaven. It felt more, and not even, Belhaven is the South. I've never been to the South. Even in one day on campus, we saw so many Black people.
So many Black people.
We were sitting there, we were like, oh my God. It was weird.
So many Black people, but Black people that spoke to Black people.
Yeah.
We could not walk by anybody without them saying, good morning, ma'am. Good afternoon.
As an introvert and someone who avoid people on the sidewalk, it
Malia was walking. We were walking on campus that first day, and she's looking down at the
No,
ground.
that was moving day.
Oh, it was moving day. I was like, Malia, 3 dudes just spoke to you, like Trace dudes.
Trace
hombres just said hey and just said hello, and she's like,
because that's in Colorado, you don't necessarily
talk to each other.
If you catch eye contact, you sometimes smile, you wave to acknowledge, but people, me and Tyler have walked. It doesn't. Me and Tyler will walk to go get ice cream because there's a lot of fun stuff within walking distance. Tyler is my best friend from college. I love you. And someone will stop us or we'll walk past someone and they'll ask us like, hey, how are you? Oh, you go to Belhaven? What's your major? Like a full-blown conversation with a random person. That is not a thing out here. And as an introvert, I'm like, oh. And even the first day when I came to visit Belhaven, that's when I got the number from that guy. My first phone number I've ever gotten from a guy was like, on
the. We land in Jackson, and within minutes,
within 24 hours,
Malia's got digits, got digits.
I threw them away. I was scared. I was.
It was nice.
We talked about this in love, but y'all, love is a whole other thing. And also, I wasn't sure if I was going and the whole other thing and nerves. So yes, I threw the phone number away.
Well, if I ever want to feel pretty, I just drop her off at school or pick her up from school.
Oh,
and
yeah.
In Jackson, it's like without fail every day.
Mm-hmm. No hesitation. We were eating lunch, and he gave me a free cookie because we were like ready to head out. And then he was like, let me go get the free cookie. Leaves, and half the time I don't know what this man is saying to me. Comes back with the free
from the South.
And I'm not from the South. He gives me a cookie and the phone number. And I'm like,
it was really cute. And
it was really cute.
It's not creepy and weird.
It wasn't
very genuine.
As scared as I was, he was super nice about it. And he was very quiet about it too. Like it wasn't like aggressive, like, here's your number thing. But that was all in the first day. But I was sitting with these two schools. Iowa is a predominantly white school. And I come from a community where I went to schools were predominantly white. My neighborhood predominantly white. And so Iowa, for all intents and purposes, even though I didn't visit Iowa, felt safe. And you were very much a pivotal moment in that of just being like, Malia, because of what you're telling me, it seems like you need to go to Belhaven.
Yeah, and you know when God, a lot of times I think we pray and we ask God to tell us what to do and to give us direction, and we are literally expecting the go to this school.
Yeah.
Like either a internal voice, audible voice. Like we're literally expecting God to be like, do this thing. And I don't think God has ever been that direct with me. But for example, with Belhaven, even us sitting there after the colloquy, everyone left the room and we were trying to figure out what to do with lunch, and we just looked at each other, and there was just like this peace.
There was a peace with the professors,
excitement, and so it's like all of these things fall into place. We have a total peace about it, and God just continues to show favor and literally map out the steps, right?
Yeah.
There was no God being like, Malia, go to Belhaven.
But it was just, it all fell into place because I started applying. My first application was October. In Colorado, there's like a free application day where if you apply to all these schools, you don't have to pay the application fee. So it was like mid-October when I started applying. And I had all these schools. I was set. It wasn't even like I was freaked out and needed another one. I was like, God, please give me one more option. I'm not satisfied. I was going to pick Iowa. I was going to go to Iowa. And then all seamlessly within weeks, we find Belhaven. We apply to Belhaven. I get into Belhaven. We go to Belhaven. We come back like all within a month, solid.
And I think the bigger, and I posted this on Instagram at the time, the bigger testimony to that was this notion of we cannot afford college and we need it paid for. And my prayer was like, God, just handle it and handle all of it. Not just like a scholarship here, a scholarship there, handle all of it.
And freshman year was free.
It was handled.
It was handled. I did get the Angie Thomas scholarship. There's the big sell on Google is that it's a full ride, and that is the highest scholarship you can get. So I did not get the full ride, but I did get the second highest. I got $6,000 a year, which is incredible. That's been my biggest scholarship to date. And so with that and all the first year scholarships I got freshman year at Belhaven was completely paid for, which is incredible. And none of my other schools I had applied for and got into had that much money offered to me. I would have to have paid something out of pocket for any of the other schools I went to,
Yeah.
especially if I stayed in Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado ended up
They
being
gave me
more
like
expensive.
nothing for any of the colleges. I got into CU Boulder, CSU, and Denver DU. Yeah. Offered CSU specifically. I remember they offered me nothing.
It said
yeah.
zero on the offer letter.
Literally $0
That's
zero. And I'm like, I live here.
CSU anyway.
Yeah, no, this is a buff household, so good. Nah, that was fine. I was totally okay with that actually.
Right.
But yeah, just the blessings of me, the scariness of me traveling to a new place and it being Mississippi and it being so far. And even in that knowing, we decided, I'm pretty sure before I moved, that because of how far it was and the pricing of tickets, that I wouldn't be coming home for Thanksgiving or for any of the breaks. Which is like, I mean, it's fine. And I've clearly lived through all of that, but it was just like like this is scary versus driving down 45 minutes or doing something easier.
I think the other big sell, in addition to the scholarship, it being a full ride for that first year and most of the years covered for the most part, is in that she got a mentor, a writing mentor in Angie Thomas, and just that connection of if there's anyone that you want to be like, I want to be that.
Y'all, I've met her twice and I have pictures, and she signed my book.
She signed her book.
Like, not the book that I bought with that she wrote. Right. She signed the death call.
You're so funny. Fangirling over here. But Angie Thomas literally wrote her senior project, her capstone project.
Yeah, so we have a senior project, which is this book actually. So the senior project for creative writers is that you have to do a 15 to 20 page research portion and an 70 to 80 pages worth of, if you're a poet, poetry, if you're nonfiction, but 80 pieces of your creative work. And they're supposed to coincide. So the research has to be somewhat connected and related to your writing. I can't write a random fantasy story about something I made up and have no research to back it up. Like, it has to somewhat coincide. And for Angie Thomas, when she went to Belhaven, the very first draft of The Hate U Give that became a world phenomenon was her senior project, which is a huge thing to like know about. Like, oh my gosh, like what I'm working on right now went to that level, but that is where she started. And so for my senior project, I couldn't decide what to do because I'm a fantasy writer. How do I research that? And we came up with our idea to write this book, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have our memoir be my senior project, and my research will be on storytelling, generational storytelling, all that thing, which is so cool to and then know what it can come to because of Angie Thomas's senior project. And who would have thought, when she presented it to the professors that I currently have, they taught Angie Thomas, and to see where it went, like if I was either of them, I'd be like, oh my gosh,
like this is now a movie, and
right? And I was some kind of small part of that, because you present your senior project to a board, they read it, and they more or less decide if you walk, if you did enough, if you graduate off of your senior project. Not entirely, but it's a heavy part of our thing. So for Angie, that was her stamp off. To walk was something that became such a big part of her writing career.
So in addition to the great school, the scholarship, that is the type of environment you're in, and that's what you get and got with deciding to go to Belhaven.
Yeah. And what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and the masters, like that was another huge selling point.
That was a huge selling point. At Belhaven, they offer, if you stay for a fifth year and do a double major, then tuition is free, which I almost considered. And then also, if you finish your undergrad at Belhaven, you get a free master's online whenever. You can access it whenever. Which I still haven't fully decided if I'm doing that, but it's such a cool opportunity to have that chance to do your master's for free. And I was gonna say, with going to Mississippi in the South, almost all of my classmates in my creative writing department are Black women. Almost entirely. It's very few men, which is unfortunate, and there are some white women, but it literally is the friends that I've made, big majority of the creative writing community, and the girls who have won Angie Thomas since I've been at school, all Black women. So it has been super cool to have that community of Black women, because I didn't have a lot of Black girl friends growing up in elementary, middle school, and high school, but to have Black women who are writers like me, and I can learn from them and learn from the background that they came from, which if I went to any creative writing concentration in Colorado or went to any of the other schools, that department would look so different. That creative writing department. So it's been really cool to learn my craft with girls who experience things like me and look like me and see things in a similar light. Like I did my hair piece I did freshman year. One of my favorite pieces I've done in college is I wrote about the love and hate I have for my curly hair. And when I presented it to class, my professor, who are both white males, they understood it, but they just couldn't. So they kept on wanting me to change it because they couldn't fully grasp it. And I was doing my best to make sure that anybody who read it could understand it. But then I left class that day, and all of the girls in that class, which that class is majority Black women, they're like, Malia, we heard every word of that piece. And yes, there could be some things to work on so that more people understand what we go through. But they're like, as people who did do it, like we felt every piece of that piece, and that meant so much versus writing that piece in a room full of white women and men, and it being a whole classroom of we don't understand. That was super cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, go Blazers, and I have like
go Blazers.
I have like 2 months left, and I'm like, oh no.
So we have 2 months left. This is
yes,
cool, exciting thing.
Why we're both wearing the same, well, not the same shirt, but the same school.
But I decided to go back to school after 24 years, which is crazy, and being probably the oldest in my group.
Probably.
MBAs that are graduating.
Possibly.
But as most of you know, as a lot of you know, I went to CU Boulder, go Buffs, and love CU Boulder, love representing CU Boulder. I will say the experience there, going through it, I would have never said I loved it. It is a predominantly white institution.
I would say the same thing for Belhaven too.
It is,
in the thick of it.
Yeah. I don't know if you're in something and you love it. It's like maybe looking back on it, but I do remember though being in Boulder. So you've got predominantly white institution and all the things that come with that, but then you have Boulder.
Yeah.
And all the things that come, I just don't even know what to say.
Just Boulder. If you understand, you understand.
That come with that. It was not easy and it was hard. And we talk about it in Blackness and in different chapters of just being othered and the racism that I experienced there. And a lot of Black students you talk to, it wasn't the best experience. I will say though, however, that it was a great education, and I did make a lot of really great friends and connections. And then fast forward as an alum, I've been super intentional. And people who know me are like, you're the biggest Buff fan, and all you do is like rep Buffs and blah blah blah.
But you're such an integral time,
in what you do. Because representation. Like I want people who look like me to know that there are people that look like them that went to CU Boulder. Like that is my biggest thing. Yeah. I literally have hired multiple people on my teams and have worked with young people who went to CU Boulder and graduated and do not feel like they are a part of a family. They don't feel like they fit in as an alum. And I rep so hard simply to change that.
That's it. So cool. And it's bigger than just being a fan, because we can all be fans. I'm a fan and I don't go there. It's because of my mom, and my dad also went there, who he is respectively a really big fan, which is so cool. But more than that, like you go to games, but you also are so integrated and you mentor kids there. You talk with several kids in several different areas of just the intentionality. You did, how many years did you do that class at CU?
That I would go KeyBank Business Leadership Program. I was in as a 16-year-old, so my junior year in high school, I was a student in that program. I got to stay in the dorms for a week, and that was my first exposure to CU. And that is what made me want to go there, to choose that school. So I was involved in that program all throughout my 4 years at CU. Then when I graduated, I would say for 15, almost 20 years.
Because they went to a lot of those.
Almost 20 years, I would go back and do a branding marketing workshop, personal branding workshop at that business leadership program.
Yeah.
So between that exposure and then President's Leadership class, which I'm also just so thankful for and so fond of, was a leadership program, leadership minor, but then also a scholarship. That really, getting into that program, which is super prestigious, was also the kind of tilting factor to get me to choose to go to CU. Definitely. So in all of that, again, representation is so important to me. But when I graduated, all of my friends were going immediately to get their masters. Like that was the big thing. And
that's usually, because there's so many people who are doing that.
And I was like, I'm going to get my MBA, of course, duh. But the more I examined my heart on it, it was to check a box off so that I could feel like I was keeping up with other people.
And that is part of my back and forth about me doing the master's, that even though it's free through Belhaven, with what they offer at Belhaven, the different masters, for me, it's kind of feeling like just a checkbox because it's offered to me. It's because everybody else is going to be doing it as soon as we graduate. So that's been something that I've been trying to process and navigate for myself that you had to navigate back then.
And someone told me, and I wish I remember who exactly it was. So there's always like those wise words of wisdom that you get. And one of those was, do not get your master's until you know specifically why you need it. And so the question was to me, Olivia, do you need a master's to do what you are doing or to do what you want to do? And I wanted to be a big
time magazine editor.
I wanted to be a big time advertising executive. Do I need a master's to do that? No, not necessarily. Or I wanted to be an entrepreneur, continue my entrepreneurship journey. Do I need a master's? No, not necessarily. So the advice to me was then do not get your master's right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't. And then the longer I didn't, the easier it was for me to not get it because that FOMO or the like, all my friends have masters. Every room I'm in, everyone has a master. And what even started to happen more recently in the role that I'm in education and nonprofit education is everyone assumed I had a master's.
If I would meet you outside of being your daughter, I would assume you had a master's.
And the other day, I was talking to somebody about us graduating together, and they were like, "I thought you already had a master's." Everyone thinks I have a master's because every room I'm in, everyone has like.
But to be fair, Mom, I truly think that also speaks to your caliber and what you've done in your career, and just the wisdom that you just have. So I would venture to say that some people also just assume it because of the wisdom and knowledge that you have.
And that how old I am.
No, absolutely not. No.
But so what was interesting and the reason now why I decided to go back to school and get my master's was because, again, thinking about, do I need a master's to do what I want to do? The answer has been no. But more recently, in the past like several years, I've gotten to a place where, like you said, I mentor, I talk, I speak, I lecture, even I guest lecture a lot at CU Boulder, but I've lectured at CSU, at DU. But anytime there's an opportunity for me to do something a little bit more formal, and it's not about being an adjunct professor or anything like that, but if there's like a summer class, and this specifically with CU Denver, wanted me to teach a personal branding class over the summer. And this came up every summer for a while to the point of submitting the class description.
Wow.
Like for real happening.
Like you were doing this.
For real. But they thought I had a master's.
And you needed one to do it?
I think that is crap that I need a master's.
It probably is, but they did require for you to have a master's to teach.
At DU, I got down to this process and they were super excited. And then, yes, I needed a master's and I didn't. And so therefore I couldn't do the lecturing that I wanted to do and that they wanted me to do. And then same thing with CU Denver. I think CU Denver could have pulled some strings.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I kept hitting this roadblock of I really do want to not leave my job, not change my profession, not become a professor, but I wanted to pour into students at another level than what I'm already doing. Mm-hmm. And I can't do that without a master's. So I'm like, okay, well, let me examine what this looks like. So I looked at a bunch of different schools. I did look at CU Denver and there.
That's what some of my friends were asking when I was telling them about this awesome story about graduate, is that you intentionally chose Belhaven. And I was like, Belhaven for a moment wasn't going to be what was picked. It wasn't an option. It was just a master's. It wasn't.
Yeah. Well, but I also didn't want just any master's.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. And I also didn't want any MBA. And the crazy thing about it is I know, and this is proven to be fact now that I'm almost done with my MBA, that I could teach a lot of these classes.
Yeah.
So the work that I am doing has to be challenging enough and just like particular enough that I'm not like bored out of my mind, but also that I feel like, waste of time, but also that I feel like I'm experiencing something cool and different. So CU Denver was just launching a master's in entrepreneurship that I was like, I was already entrepreneur in residence at CU Denver. I was already lecturing. I was already doing workshops. I was already mentoring students there. So it seemed like a perfect match for me to then get my master's at CU Denver in entrepreneurship and really to help shape the program because it was
for sure.
And that didn't work out and I was really upset about it.
I remember that was a frustrating time.
so frustrating.
For figuring that out.
So frustrating, but I also know that God
knew clearly.
And kind of so then as I'm like, okay, well, that isn't an option. What other online master's MBA in entrepreneurship are there? And there aren't a lot out there, which is what made the CU Denver program so special. But I did find like LSU had an online master's in entrepreneurship and some other different colleges. So I was like, okay, well, let me look at those. Let me look at the cost because one thing I had to remember, and I tell you this, I mentor students a lot, is the cost that you are investing into your master's going to come back with what you're able to do with the master's? For me, because I'm not switching careers, like this is just an opportunity for me to lecture. It is not necessarily the case where I pay this much money for a master's and then it's going to come immediately back. It's a good investment, but it's not like an exact exchange.
It's not a promise guarantee that you would want.
So I started looking at programs. Programs are expensive, et cetera, et cetera. And then I looked at Belhaven only because Malia gets a master's for free. I don't get a master's for free.
And I was going there. I think, did you tell me that you were just like, let's just see? Because like
I was just Googling. I was like, let me just see because and then all of a sudden I was like, wait, an MBA in entrepreneurship?
Like, I did not know that they had that, truly.
I didn't know either. And so I started to like research it and I was like, this sounds amazing. So now the classes are like, Christian worldview in entrepreneurship.
And that was a different thing did any of the other schools have that? Because Belhaven's a Christian, I didn't fully mention this before, but it's a Christian, really small Christian liberal school. So that was part of the reason, liberal arts school. Right. So I was able to add my biblical studies minor, because even if you don't have that minor, there are classes you need to take to graduate required that are biblical based. So that also, and they imbue Christian learning and Christian faith in every class that Belhaven offers, including the master's that you were looking into.
So I just started doing this research, and then not only is it MBA in entrepreneurship, which again, I think that sets me apart than just having an MBA and entrepreneurship being at the core of like who I am and what I do and what I talk about in my lectures and things like that. So I was like, oh, this seems like really good. But then it's actually through an organization called the Silicon Valley Group. And so it's a group in Silicon Valley in California that invests funds into entrepreneurs. So it's actually through that group of where this MBA is being offered, leveraging in through Belhaven as a platform and professors and et cetera. So I applied. I got in. I
was losing my mind. I was just like, please do what is best for you and the college is best for you, but you're going to be at school with me? I was like, come move into my dorm.
Yeah. But it was online. And then it just so worked out that we literally graduate on the same day. We're going to
finish at the same time.
In the same ceremony.
Because you started your MBA in the beginning of my junior year, and it's a two-year program, roughly. And Belhaven is a small enough school that they don't do a separate master's graduation and undergrad. They literally, I have a picture because I've gone the past couple of years. It literally is the teachers are 2 rows, then the masters, and directly behind the masters are undergrads. So when they announce it, they do the masters, pause for like 2 seconds, and then go into undergrad. So we will be walking together. We're looking into graduating either at the same, like walking at the same time, or worst case, you will go and then I would go. But still in the same ceremony is exciting. So cool. I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, I've had my bucket list of things I want to do, and our relationship is so special to me. But if you would have told me, not even 5 years ago, that Malia, you get to graduate with your mom and have that moment with your mom, I'd be like, what do you mean you're going to graduate?
Like, what do you mean I'm in school?
No, literally. And it's something that I'm personally getting to cross off my bucket list that I never even thought could be on my bucket list, because why would you? Like, that's something that you think of. That's something that God imbues in our lives. That was not planned.
One really great example of when people say God's plans for you are larger than your own plans, or beyond what you can even imagine. We would have never imagined that.
Especially like if you did get your master's back when you were or right after you graduated, or if you decided that master's was never your intent or not something that you needed. Like there's so many scenarios where it wouldn't even be a thought, and not only is it a thought, like it is coming to life in just a couple months, which is
and I survived it, y'all. My first class, I was like, I don't think I could do this. And it's so interesting because the content itself is, I've done it. So I've been an entrepreneur. I've launched businesses. I've helped people launch businesses. Like I've done marketing plans. Like so a lot of I'm like I could probably teach this content, but I had to submit papers.
Like having to do discussion posts and respond to two people and essays. Gosh. It was so funny because
APA like formatting. I'm like references. Like
I came home randomly in October to go see a CU game with my dad through tickets that you gave us. And so I was sitting here, and it was October my junior year. So you had just started your MBA.
I was only a couple months ago. In.
So we were sitting in this room on these couches, and it was the first moment that we were doing homework together from the same school at the same time, and it was just so funny. I have a picture of you just like, or a video of you like groaning because you were like so over it, and I have been over it.
But it was so hard because I'm taking concepts that I know and I've taught and I've done, but now I got to write like a 10-page paper on it,
and you have to order textbooks.
Or I gotta read it. I have to read. Like it was, and managing my time. I literally for those first couple months and the first couple classes would just not submit homework because I forgot about it.
Well, that's also something to point out. Obviously, that you're going back to your master's, which is such a cool thing and something that not everybody does. But the reality of you are doing your master's, you're almost done with it, but you did it while having a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And Gabe was going through stuff. I'm in college and helping me out. You were going through stuff. That is a lot to put on your plate.
Yeah. And there were a lot of moments, especially again in those first couple months, first couple classes, where I was like, why am I doing this again? Yeah. And I almost stopped. And a couple people close to me were like, why are you doing this? Yeah. You should stop. Like, don't add this to your plate. And when I started, there were like 6 people in my class.
Is there not just like one?
It's me. It's me. I'm the like
you're the strongest soldier.
Like people dropping out, and I'm the last one.
As you should be.
So I'm gonna graduate alone, I think.
With me.
With you.
Oh. I cannot foresee what my head is gonna be thinking, my heart, my emotions. Like I cannot predict how I'm so excited.
Well, so let's paint this picture for you all because it's coming up really fast. Depending on when you're watching this, we either have already graduated or we're about to graduate.
Or yeah.
So she will already be in Jackson, Mississippi. I will fly out with my mom to Mississippi
like days
before, just a couple days before graduation. The morning of, it's Saturday morning, we will graduate. Either we literally will hold hands and walk together.
I'm gonna cry if that's how we do it.
Or we'll be, back to back. After graduation, we'll have a break, but then later that evening, we will be doing our book launch party in Mississippi at Memoir with your professors and the heads of your departments. Yep, and we're hoping that Angie Thomas joins us if she's in town. And, will just be such a great,
which is such a cool thing. Not to say that, because God's plan, as we said, is a bigger picture, and we can't fully grasp all of that and understand what's to come next. But this book, part of the reason it came about the way that it did is because we're both graduating. Like, not to say that the book wouldn't have happened otherwise, but we were talking about us graduating, and we were talking with my former boss about Generation Story. Like, it's just like the way the book all came about. If you did not start your master's or already had it, or whatever the case may be, I don't know if this whole journey would be maybe in a different way. Exciting. I think it'd be less exciting. It would just be different. And just the way that all of that has orchestrated for your life, for my life, for our life, in a way that, again, like we couldn't have planned any of
We're
this.
also graduating a week before Mother's Day. So the launch of the book, our graduation, Mother's Day, it's just really...
It's all in the same vein of just celebrating our story, but also celebrating
the stories of mothers
and daughters. And I am, again, with my senior project, I had no idea what I was doing until this all clicked for us in our story, and I can now share that in general, but also in my senior project, which is amazing.
So as we wrap this episode of Through Her Eyes podcast, we want to ask a question of thinking about your educational journey. What did it mean for you, and what does it mean for you now for then generations? We talk, and even in my work with Denver Scholarship Foundation, about education and how it impacts generations. my choices in education, my influence on you, how that impacts your decisions, and then how that will continue to impact other people.
Yeah, which is so cool how your education stems outside of yourself and how that looks in different areas. Whether you're still in education or if you've done education, if you're thinking about going back, all those different
or if you
areas.
haven't. And I think one thing to mention too, and when I use the term college or education, I think of any and every possibility, any pathway to education. So that
any
isn't
class.
Always a 4-year university.
Yeah.
It could be a 2-year college. It could be an apprenticeship.
It could be a night class,
school, trade school, a class,
a night class.
Yeah, anything and everything where there's knowledge to be gained.
Yeah, because any knowledge you can gain from other people, especially people who also have knowledge and interest in your field and you're something that you want and something that is your passion, is valuable times 10.
So we'd love to hear your story in the comments.
Yes, if you feel willing to share, smash that subscribe button. Tell your friends
and tell your cookies.
And we will see you next time. Bye.